Only seeing it today. This was my mistake. I found out there isn't any place that could make a fountain for myself to play. Now I excuse this just because it's not my own. It's not my place. When my name seems to take away all that matters, I think it's just because I am the only walkabout this town. I think I used to feel a train coming through my brain. Till this day I played a game. Now I think it's not just for me, but it's always for thee that place. Me instead of they. So I think about me, and I find it still my mistake. Till this day that I could change, I found out there's only one way. The novel that seems to make itself home before there was anyone to take away the bones. Now I think it's just because my brain can't admit that itself is outweighed until I can go in. Now I think about all that remains. Just because it's not my brain doesn't mean I couldn't make it rain. I change one day just because it's not the same. Till then I couldn't just walk away. Now that I am where I've made, I'm sure that I could wait. But just because there's no alarm doesn't mean there's a strong arm. And I think it's just because I can't always admit myself as wrong. But if sometimes I am corrected by them, then I'm sure it'll outweigh what was me. Until I admit that I couldn't change, then I wouldn't just make the same. I try to remain, but some days I'm outweighed by the name that I take. If I choose myself before anyone else, I'm sure that it would admit more of a stronghold, because I know myself can't be first unless I put someone first before myself. So what would I make if I correct everything that I change before my name was in this place? I thought about space. Then I corrected myself as short, because there's no way to make any more. Unless I thought that myself couldn't be assumed, I'd correct myself until the day I could be made. But what am I to buy if I can't just see myself through the time? Because there's no more quiet unless I can't play myself obey. Now I'm rested because I am. I'm sure that enough could be weighed. Until this day there wasn't a mistake. Until this place there wasn't even a name. Now that I've changed, I've only come to see that I couldn't debate. What am I to choose? If I put someone else before myself. Now I think about what it means, but still I'm adamantly placed. 'Cause I couldn't select any more than less, unless my name is some sort of forbidden gate. 'Cause I can't just be unless I haven't just seen. There's no one else that matters besides he. And I think, what's it mean, unless I am his son? Now I choose to see, it's not just my brain that chooses to be. When I ignore the posted signal signs, then what do I awake to if it's not mine? When it's the morning time and I fight only to make it in my mind, then what do I choose to buy? If I find out why, then I know I'm only one to go at it slow. I've been looking for a strong arm. Yeah, you know it's in my arms. When there isn't any harm that can be caused. When there isn't any alarms that can be stored. Then I know myself might weigh it, but still it's not mine. To take it mine, 'cause I find out why, and I choose to soar, 'cause I can't just be the same. If I find out there's no one at bay, then what would I erase if it's not my time? What would I make if it's not even mine? What would I shout if I can't say that it's never gonna take my place? 'Cause I think about what I've made for me, to see it always free. So when I choose myself, then what do I find? If I look at it in a different way, then what do I make on this page? If I look at anything, then would it be because I'm placing something else before myself? Or is it just now that I choose? After all has been forbid, after me will come some kid. And I'm sure it's not just the same thing. If I look about it in another while, my smile could be made, my time could be take, But what would I think if at the end there's no praise? Then it would have been for my own sake. Now I look to the left and I find it's not just the same. I look to the right and see it's always close by. I think about the time that money never spent on mine, 'cause I couldn't look if I was not seeing what I hadn't made was a day that someone could take away. No, it's not just because I forgot, or if it's just because I am not a frog, but I might determine myself beforehand to place myself where there's an immediate way, for I'm not sure if I could take it anymore, unless I'm forbid from seeing myself through to the enemies. Now I signal this out because I can't just leave myself astray when I find it's only my place to blame. Then I determine myself as weighed. But when it comes, I find out it's not my place to say anything, 'cause I'm not just forgotten, I'm only seen to. And when I think about it all, then there's no other way to take it at school. I look to the past and I find my mates, seeing myself under a frame. And when I focus on the main, there's only one subscripted take. It's not just my lane, it's the place I forgot to say, hey, are your mates okay? And when I look at this, I find out it's not just for my kids. I realise that for all they who take themselves the same, looking at a frame before a picture is made, just to say, is it the same if there's no stencil to make? When the pencils are fake, then I might only take myself before the name. So I see it's still the way to place yourself before they. But I think it's not the same if I look to what can be made, then I find it's just the way that I take and the place that I make that can't be saved. But still it's not the way, for I think that myself can't be played. She's saying, if you put yourself before someone else and say that you're being played, then you're putting them after you and they're playing you. But if I put them first and say they're playing me, then I can't be played. Before I put myself first, then I can put others before I. And when they're ahead of me, then I myself, placing I first, can be made out by them to be under equipment and to be under appropriated by what I see for them to be. Whereas if I place them before me and I don't choose myself at first, then they can't be made out by what I perceive of them. To see within I myself that I am not the mate that one can say hasn't ever changed. That I can only find for myself that I ain't the same. Unless I think for myself that I've never been the same. Then I can say before they, if they are the same, then I can see for them that I would never have changed. Until the day that I can't be, then I only can believe that myself can never be seen. That's the one thing that I haven't been. I can never just be what I haven't believed. But still for myself, I can't just say that I am the same. Without myself not being, then I can never believe in myself. Without myself having to see that for myself, I cannot be believed. But without myself being, then I can only say that I've never showed anything to anyone other than myself, or has never seen anyone. Without myself not being, then I can not just believe that I've only seen one thing for myself to see. And as I believe in this thing, then I can find for myself that I've never just seen any such thing be, without myself first not believing. But when I do believe, then I can find one thing, that I myself cannot just be seen, but I've shown they, that they know of themselves, that we can all say we haven't been seen, unless ourselves can't be said to say for ourselves that we've never been seen. But without ourselves knowing this, we cannot just be what we haven't seen. Or without ourselves knowing it, then we can never just be believed. And unless we're going to be believed, then we can never just say for ourselves that we haven't ever seen. For if we don't believe, then what aren't we? And if we do believe, then what can we be? And as we say for ourselves, this isn't mine, then are we putting ourselves first or putting others before us? If we say for someone else that this isn't mine, then is it showing for ourselves that we aren't what it is? Or are we saying for ourselves that it isn't ours? For if it's not ours to take, then what do we make? And if it's not ours to be, then what do we find in ours? And if it's our place to make, then what do we find within ourselves? If no one can take ourselves, then what do we find? And if no one finds within us, then what do we mind? Unless we don't take our time, then what time do we make? Without ourselves being, then we can't just be prayed. We can only believe in such a thing that's never been. We only can find within ourselves what we've seen until the day that we can't believe, then we only can make it for a while. And that's those days we can't just be what we've never seen and never believed. Unless we're not going to be, then we only can find one thing, the day we've seen ourselves believe. But until those days, we can't just say that we've never found anyone. Unless we find something before ourselves, then what can we say for ourselves to be? And if we don't believe, then what can we show? And if we don't show anything, then what can we make? And if we don't make anything, then what do we place? And if we say to ourselves that we aren't what we are, then what aren't we but that we aren't? Unless we're not there that we could be, then what do we find for ourselves? Unless we're never going to be such a thing that we haven't believed. But if we're not knowing this, then we're not knowing that. And if we aren't going to be this, then what can we say? If we've only shown ourselves, then how can we say that we put someone else before ourselves showing? And if we can't say for ourselves, then we'd only be before ourselves, that no one could say for ourselves that we'd have never seen. For no one could be this unless this is not what we believed. Unless we don't believe ourselves, then what do we find within ourselves? If only ourselves can be before them, or before the hour that one can make, then we never take ourselves, unless we find within ourselves that one couldn't be, as this that we are is never that that we couldn't be, unless we find within ourselves that there is no way to take. Unless we look to the past, then we can only find ourselves that has been before ourselves. Unless ourself isn't ahead of anyone else, then we can find that only ourself is there before ourselves, and ourself can't be before anyone else. Unless we find out that no one else can ever make out from us, that we've never been the same. For if it's only us that can't be believed, then what do we find within ourselves if no one can say that they hadn't believed? Unless we take in for ourselves, then what do we find for ourselves if no one's ever found for them, but has never taken for us? For no one can say it's the same if no one's ever been placed. If we can't make for ourselves, then what do we make for anyone else? And if we don't say to ourselves that no one's ever been placed, then what do we find within ourselves that no one's ever made? For no one can make out from themselves what it means to be taken. Unless we don't take ourselves, then we find within ourselves that someone has been placed. Unless we aren't that we are, then we can only find within ourselves that we ain't. Unless we ain't that is, then no one could say that we aren't. Unless we mean not such a thing, then we can find within ourselves that we've never meant anything. Unless someone couldn't take themselves before the day that no one was taken, then we could find within ourselves that no one could find themselves to be placed without themselves being played. And as we think for this, we can find within the mean that no scripture has ever been made to be silent, unless the scriptures can't be beaten by the self that is self-apparent. So when Jesus put himself before anyone else and said, tonight, Judah, you will go against me and turn your back and run today, and they will lead me to the cross to be crucified, and led there by the Son of Man shall I be. Then Jesus placed himself before Judah, for I'm sure Judah wasn't going to betray him. But when Jesus placed himself first, then Judah had found that he himself would be second in the taking of what he could make. And because Judah had already put Jesus before himself, then he had found in himself that it was placed to be played. And so we could think on this, then we could think on many things, but no such thing should be silenced, for one thing couldn't be meaned. And as we find for ourselves, then there's only one thing we could take, and that's the days that we haven't taken, only the days that we haven't placed. Unless we can't be there, then we find not that we are, and that we aren't, that is that which we can't be. Unless we haven't been seen, then we only can find one thing, the thing that hasn't been before the day that we could be. And so I could say to myself, I ain't that I am. Unless that I is, hasn't always been that is. Unless this is not that is, that I am would never be seen. Unless I am not this, that could not be seen. For without that being, I can only find in myself that no such thing has ever been. Unless I know of this, then I could not speak of this. Unless this that I have seen is not from my way to take. Unless I have never taken, then I can only find one that I haven't took. Unless that I am has not just been this, unless that is not that hasn't been. For I'm only showing myself today to what I've been seen to be known as. Unless that ain't me, has never been seen to be knowing as this, then I only could say that I've never not seen one thing that can never take my place. Unless my name couldn't be taken and my name couldn't be showed, then my name would never be saved, unless that day couldn't be believed. And as this for that I am, and that is my name, could only be shown by this that ain't been, and this that has never been. For I can only speak of one thing, and that's that thing that I've never said, has never been shown by me. Thanks for tuning in.